The Borders Abbeys Way is one of Scotland's great trails. It's a 109-kilometre walking route that creates a circuit around the towns and villages of the central Borders.
Over the next few weeks, we'll be taking our own journey along the route, which is based upon the historic walkways that link the four great abbeys of the Scottish Borders. After setting off from Jedburgh, we'll work our way round past the other sites in Kelso, Dryborough and Melrose, before looping back via Selkirk, then Hawick and Denham. Our start point is Jedburgh. Not only the largest surviving abbey, but also the southernmost and closest to the Anglo-Scottish border, which was very much part of its story. In the 9th century, the land around Jedburgh was part of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Northumbria, but 300 years later, David, the future king of Scotland, and as we'll find out, a man central to the story of the Borders Abbeys, founded a priory here in 1118. To find out more, I spoke to Scott Barden, one of the stewards at Jedburgh Abbey.
So Scott, we're setting off on the Borders Abbeys Way, but what actually is an abbey?
Okay, well, an abbey is a self-contained community. It can be nuns who live in there, or monks or canons. They're usually led by either an abbot or an abbess. This abbey, Jedburgh Abbey, we had the canons. They would have gone out into the community as well and preached. So they had quite a lot of different roles and jobs to play. It was a very important place and there was a lot going on.
Why would an abbey be placed here in the Scottish Borders?
I mean, the abbeys had by this point, become more complicated and more impressive. And King David would have known and seen these buildings in England. And so he knew they were going to be impressive. He needed that splendour for his own prestige, for his own power, because he wanted to get to heaven as quickly as possible. He was very pious, very religious, and also the Borders was a very unstable place. You know, there was a lot of friction between the people on one side of the border and people on the other side of the border. King David believed that he could bring stability to the border, and that would be good for his ruling of Scotland.
Is that why there is so many abbeys kind of concentrated in this part of the Scottish Borders?
Yeah, partly is where King David invited them to be. The community of the abbey decided on particular places within that region. But it was important because the ground, the place was fertile. It was very good for growing crops, good for livestock.
We're setting off in the Borders Abbeys Way, and that idea of journeying by foot between abbeys, that was an important part of their life too.
Yeah, there was a thread that kind of connected the abbeys for those different purposes. One was for pilgrims, to be able to go from abbey to abbey, places to stay. Also, they could give gifts. The abbeys were rendered very brightly coloured, like castles were as well. And so they were focal points for people to be able to travel from one place to another. Every day people didn't have maps. And also very important for the monarchy to be able to go from place to place. People, when they're doing the walks now, will be staying in accommodation, and they would have had accommodation back in the Middle Ages for people to stay as well. People obviously go to the abbeys and spend money, so it's a bit similar in some ways to what would have been back then in the Middle Ages, yeah.
Life inside the abbeys was a routine of peaceful prayer and contemplation, something of a contrast to the borderlands surrounding it. In fact, Jedburgh became, perhaps unfairly, notorious for what is known as Jedburgh justice, where a man could be hanged first and then put on trial later. Fortunately, in more modern times, crime and punishment became a bit more civilised, and this story can be told at Jedburgh Castle Jail, which sits at the top of the town right by the Abbeys Way path. It's there I met with museum curator Shona Sinclair.
We're in Jedburgh Jail, but it's Jedburgh Castle Jail, so where does the name come from?
Yeah, so this was the original site of Jedburgh Castle. However, we are on the border. This was a wild land, and it was fought over by the English and the Scots, razed to the ground. Eventually the Scots thought, forget about this, we're just going to take it down ourselves and forget about it. So that's what they did. And then for the next several centuries, it was the site of the town gallows. in the 19th century, the town and the borough had the good idea to build a brand new prison to replace the facilities that were down in the body of the town. And this is the result. The local architect, Archibald Elliott, who also did Carlton Jail in Edinburgh, he was commissioned, and his style was a castellated style, so he mimicked the castle that had originally been on the site, and that's why we have a prison that looks like a grand castle.
When it was built, it was known as a model jail, so what does that mean?
So there was a prison reformer who came from England called John Howard. In the late 19th century, he was commissioned to go around England and Scotland and look at the state of prisons. It was a pretty dire situation. People were kept in very poor conditions, so the condemned, the uncondemned, women, children, murderers, petty theft, all piled in together. Some prison cells were called black holes. So conditions were very, very bad. John Howard came along with a theory that if you kept people in better conditions, gave people things to do, so you kept them occupied, you gave them work to do, you kept them separate, and this jail was set up as a Howard Reform prison. And it is one of the best preserved examples of this today in Scotland.
What type of thing would see you end up in Jedburgh jail?
The level of crime was mixed, mostly petty theft. You'll think it no surprise, poaching was a big one around here. Obviously the salmon fishing and the estates and the countryside around were a big draw. Fighting, drunk and disorderly. Part of the prison was called the Bridewell, and that was a place that people were put in for short, sharp shock. It was vagrancy, petty theft. There's examples of 8-year-old boys being convicted of stealing turnips from a field. We did have a few murderers in here, but this jail was really for shorter sentences. This wasn't for people being sentenced and then spending 30 years in prison for a murder. They would be transported, banished, executed. This jail was built and opened in 1820s, and it was closed again by the 1890s because it was inadequate.
So it was a step up from what it had been, but then it got superseded itself.
It's exactly, yeah. And you get big prisons like Perth and Edinburgh, which were purpose-built, large-scale facilities, and prisoners were shipped out of the rural areas into these big facilities. So by the 1890s, this was all but redundant.
With our time served at the jail, we can get back onto our Abbeys Way journey. We make our way northeast from Jedburgh along the Jed Water until we meet the River Teviot, crossing at Nesbitt. We're overlooked by the 150-foot high Waterloo Monument. Completed in 1824, it replaced a smaller monument commissioned by the Marquess of Lothian to celebrate the Duke of Wellington's victory over Napoleon. But for the Abbeys Way, it serves as an important waymarker and can be seen from viewpoints throughout the route. The lush, sloping fields have been ideal for growing crops for many centuries, and one of these generational farms can be found at Caersmains near Roxburgh. The Hogg family, consisting of Ashley, Simon, Evie and Mac, have expanded their farm business, inviting tourists to stay and experience a taste of traditional agricultural life in the Teviot Valley.
How old is the farm and how long have you guys been here?
So Simon's family have farmed here since the 1930s, and myself and Simon have farmed here since 2010 ourselves. Malting barley for whisky and beer, wheat for biscuit making, and potatoes sometimes as well.
You've diversified to embrace tourism. What have you done here?
So we have the lodge that we're standing beside here. That is originally the farm's steward's cottage. So we've diversified that to be a 6-person lodge. And the bothy is a 2-person cottage that was originally an old shed that was part of the farmhouse. It's something that I really love to do. I love styling the interiors, and both Simon and myself are really passionate about sharing what we do as farmers with guests. You know, we have a lot of guests that come out of the city that have maybe never seen a combine working at harvest time. They don't maybe understand where some of their food comes from, and it's a huge passion of ours to be able to share that with people that come to visit.
Roughly 15,000 people walk bits of the Borders Abbeys Way every year. Have you noticed people walking along it?
Absolutely, yes. The Borders Abbeys Way goes right through our fields here, so when we're out working in the tractors, there is a constant stream of walkers going past, watching what you're doing and enjoying the beautiful walk down by the TV. So it's lovely to see, and it's very well used.
How important are these walking routes to tourism businesses like yourselves?
Hugely important. Obviously, as a rural location here, there's that slower pace of life, and walking around here, there are literally hundreds of miles of stunning pathways that they can walk. So it's a huge part of tourism here. We're very lucky to have it on our doorstep and to be able to offer that to guests.
We rejoin the Abbeys Way, heading back along the River Teviot and under the archway of the 70-foot-high Roxburgh Viaduct, which once carried a branch of the Waverley line to Kelso and Tweedmouth. It's a popular waypoint for walkers and marks the end of the first leg of our Abbeys Way journey. Next time, the Teviot meets the Tweed at Kelso, at one of the world's most famous spots for catching fish. And it's starters' orders at Kelso's historic horse races.
This site here, the Berrimoss, was the first purpose-built racecourse in Scotland. The first race meeting took place here in 1823.
Still to come in this programme, a whole town inside a shed. Find out who built it and why after the break. Welcome back. In past programmes we've featured model trains and cars, but this time it's an entire town in miniature. Its makers are some of the most industrious retirees you're likely to meet, and they're members of Dalbeattie Men's Shed. Fixing bikes and lawnmowers, building replica cars, woodwork, metalwork and more. There are countless projects underway. And this is the latest to be completed, Dumfries Town Centre in miniature. It's the handiwork of a team led by Rolf and Dave, who've devoted a lot of time to it.
We've done about 1,600 hours on it. The worst thing I think was doing the floor paneling, because I had everything on the floor. The map behind me over my left shoulder, I had it in the floor and I was tracing all the contours and all the roads. And then when the tables were built, we put it on the table and then we started building it up to what you see now.
We had to exaggerate the scale slightly so you can see the hills better, because Dumfries is quite a hilly town, it's in a valley. So we had to lay out the contour lines and build it up, and it's twice the scale. So it looks real, but it's a rough representation. So some of the hills are steeper, some are not so steep.
The aim is to give a real sense of the shape of the town, which has meant crafting hundreds of buildings.
Initially I was going to make them out of wood, and then one of the guys here owned an ex-factory and he had this high density foam plastic, which is great for carving, a lot easier to cut. So we started cutting them, and Davey cut maybe 100 and started painting them, and I did a very rough count, and instead of 100 there's 1,800, and then I got bored. There's a lot of buildings in there, the trees as well. I did a quick count on eBay, other online shopping services are available. So I looked at the receipts, and there's 800 trees.
The crafters drew on lots of local photography for reference, and Rolf flew a drone to get a better idea of the shape of some of the buildings, leading to some unexpected modifications after he spotted some demolition work.
My favourite bit to work on was the old hospital at Crichton. That was brilliant. I mean, it took me ages just to do that one. And the funny thing was, when I finished it, Rolf came in and wrecked it. Because he flew his drone over it and says, "Oh, that's not there anymore," and he threw it away. I was livid. And I just thought, oh, why am I doing this? It was a laugh. And that was my favourite bit, even though he wrecked half of it.
But it seems all is forgiven.
Oh, the teamwork was brilliant. I mean, Rolf being an ex-policeman, me being ex-military, the banter was so flipping great. It's worth coming in just for that. And that's probably one of the reasons why we stuck at it for a while. Because once you get into a job, I like to finish the job.
And that's very much the mantra of the busy crew who meet here twice a week. Over more than a decade, they've had around 100 members, with 30 turning out for most sessions to work on all kinds of tasks. Jeff is one of the founders.
We always set it up to be free to join and free to attend, and hope that we could make enough money to develop the place and run the place from doing community type projects. Developed it, we grew it to suit the members that came in. The early members were fairly interested in woodwork, so we had a wood shop and a lathe and a whatever. But then we got guys who were interested in leather craft, so we built leather stuff. Picture framing was a couple of guys interested in. And so what we always said is if someone wanted to do something, if it was likely to be continued interest to 2 or more members, and it had the potential to help us earn money and build things, we would fund it.
Presumably you have to be quite careful not to compete with people who are doing this kind of work, established businesses.
I think there were, apart from being legal, of course, which is a given, there were sort of 2 guiding principles, if you like. One was not to stress ourselves, because we're all retired or whatever, getting on a bit, and we're not going to go back to being stressed. So anything that was either too expensive or too difficult or under time pressure, particularly, if something that had too much of a time pressure on, I'm not interested, because we're not here to get stressed. And the other thing was that we didn't want to cut across anything that existed already. Because we are working and we're not paid, we can do things cheaply. And we didn't want to take business away from local tradespersons and business persons.
Whoever you meet here, there's a real focus on getting the sleeves rolled up and getting involved. John is busy building pine marten boxes as part of his own personal focus on saving red squirrels. But he says so much of what goes on here is about building connections with people.
It's a good place to be. I don't know what else I'd be doing if I wasn't here, because I'd be lost. I lost my wife last year, and it's a hell of a big hole. So it's coming up here, and then you get the mickey taken out of you and things like that, but you give back what you get, and I'm good at it. So, and they do good for all the local communities. We do bikes, and you name it, we do it. There's nothing we're stuck with. If we haven't got it, we'll make it.
It's absolutely wonderful. It's like the WI for men, and it really does work, because no matter what if you don't know something, there's always somebody here that does know it, and they just put you right. Try this, try that, and it always works.
Well, when I first came here, I was suffering from PTSD, and when I came in here and started doing things, it was like a bubble burst. And my character came back out. And ever since then, I've loved coming here. I mean, if I miss a day here, I'm going to go daft at home.
That passion and commitment is clearly evident in the Dumfries model, which is now going to be on permanent display by the People's Project charity, helping to tell the history of the place with some fun along the way.
Dumfries is an old town, it's over 800 years old, lots of interesting buildings, lots of history. This is St Joseph's College. The founder of the Celtic football team, Father Walfrid, he was a pupil here, so that's why the football's here. I noticed that none of them are actually green, but anyway. And then Frank Williams, the Formula One racing team creator, he was also a pupil, as was Alan McNish, and as a homage to them, there's a car stuffed into the hedge. I'm sure they never did that, but that's why the car is there. Here's a little homage to the Beatles in recognition that the Beatles were never in Dumfries, but we've had lots of tribute bands. So if you look at the Abbey Road album cover, the guys are in the right colour and the right order. One of our deliberate mistakes is Robert Burns. He's facing the wrong direction. He should be looking down the high street, but we've got him facing this direction because you'll notice there's no dog. His dog is gaped, and there's his dog down there. He's hiding down at the corner of the pub. All four legs are on the ground, you'll notice. We've emphasised some of the buildings, so they are scaled 4 or 5 times the size. But we've picked out some key buildings. There's DG1, there's the churches, there's court buildings. So to try and orientate yourself where you are, otherwise it's just 1,800 little square blocks.
The model is a remarkable piece of work, but it's just one of a whole host of projects here, bringing people together to prove they still have plenty to offer in their retirement years. And if you've got time on your hands, that busy bunch get together every Monday and Thursday with one golden rule: everyone brings a pack of biscuits. That's all for this week. Hope you can join us next time.